Healthy Scratch Red Wings Report, presented by 5v5hockey.com.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Healthy Scratch Red Wings Report. It's Buschy with you once again. If you enjoyed today's video, please like, comment, and subscribe for more Red Wings content. Let's get right into it. Today, Derrick Lalonde and Steve Yzerman spoke. They had their end-of-the-year press conferences. The players did theirs the day before. Not a ton with the players. There wasn't really anything too earth-shattering. We will talk about Patrick Kane slightly in this video. But what I wanted to do is just go through a little bit of what Derrick Lalonde and Steve Yzerman said. Now, you can go and read some transcripts or watch the interviews yourself and draw your own conclusions. But there's a few things that I think were a little bit of a theme where both Lalonde and Yzerman were talking about it. And it's things that really made sense to me. There was nothing that I went, oh, that's insane. What are they talking about? Derrick Lalonde isn't really a guy that's going to give you anything too crazy. He praised every single player that he was asked about, said they had a great year and they grew and yada, yada, yada. The few things that I really kind of raised my eyebrows at was, one thing was he asked Steve Yzerman during the year, hey, can we get a little more youth in here? Lalonde said he likes coaching the young guys. And that makes sense coming from the AHL and the ECHL and working up those ranks. It's younger players. But there's pushback from Steve Yzerman saying, no, leave these guys for now. Here's what you have to work with. And to some of you, that might actually be a good thing because, Derrick Lalonde, he wants some of the prospects coming up. He wants those young players coming up. But at the same time, he's asking for these players. And then when he got Jonathan Berggren, he parked him on the fourth line or scratched him. So kind of a head scratcher for me as to, okay, well, what are you talking about? Do you want him to play or do you not? He also talked about kind of the roller coaster of how there were some games that they were in, they should have won, but there was also games like when they don't have Larkin, they went on a skid where even if they had him, they would have got probably 6 to 8 more points. They're in the playoffs. So I don't want to say he was crying over spilled milk. He was just kind of saying these are the ebbs and flows of the season where, okay, we're going to lose all these games, but we've also won these ones in nail biters. And that's something I talked about in a previous video. All the games that they came back and won, there was also games that they blew or that they should have won and they didn't. So things work out in the wash, and 91 points, still an improvement. It's something where it's going to be tough to get back next year. But when we go back in and do some of our armchair GMs, we are going to see how tough it is to rebuild the team or try to get some of the young guys in. There's not a lot of roster spots. They're up a little bit closer to the cap now, so it's going to be a little more difficult to add to this team. And I know we've heard Lalonde say a bunch of times that, the playoffs were not the goal. They weren't the expectation. No one had us going there. But he also said that now expectations change. They got to 91 points. Now they have to build on it. Is that pressure from Steve Yzerman to, hey, let's bring these guys to the next level? Well, we're going to find out because now we're going to go through what Steve Yzerman said. So a few of the things that Yzerman talked about very obviously was the disappointment of the way they missed out on the playoffs, but also how much of a roller coaster it was. Point number one that was emphasized a lot was team defense. And that goes for goaltending, the defensemen, the forwards, the team as a whole. There were times where they just did not defend well at all. They gave up a lot of chances, a lot of shots. We've seen that as fans where it's they are just hemmed in their own end. They're getting shelled. And more often than not, it felt like most nights they were getting outshot. So he wants to improve the team defense, and that might be up front. It might be on the back end or in net. He says that a lot of teams are looking for 3 goalies. It did not sound like James Reimer will be back, just the way he was talking about Husso and Lyon. And Reimer was a little bit of an afterthought when he was talking about his unrestricted free agents, so I think he'll be gone. But I think with goaltending, they probably will be looking somewhere. And for as much as Yzerman says and kind of doesn't say, you can kind of read between the lines. He's not going to tell you straight up, here's what we're going to do, and here's the expectation, and here's all my leverage. So he's going to look for ways to improve the team like he did last year and the year before, or maybe we're not expecting it. And with some of that team defense kind of not being where it was, they did sacrifice it to get more offense. I think they were 9th in the league in goals this year, which is very, very good. They were putting the puck in the net, but they weren't keeping it out. And when the team went on slumps, the team defense is what killed them because they weren't putting the puck in the net, but they couldn't keep it out of theirs as well. Another recurring theme is letting the young players develop in Grand Rapids or in junior or the NCAA or over in Europe. He did not want to rush any of these players. I understand that. You don't want to pull a guy up, play him for 6 minutes, and then send him back down. That's not going to be great for his development. That's some of the pushback that I think that Derrick Lalonde was talking about, where maybe it wasn't pushback, it was more, no, this is the plan, this is what we're doing. We're not calling these guys up under any circumstance. The reason that Berggren came up is because he is an NHL player, and he's doing it all at the AHL level, and Simon Edvinsson is ready. He's going to be here next year. He will be on the roster. Yzerman talked glowingly about him. So we're already seeing now 3 of Yzerman's top picks cracking the lineup, and we have 2 of them that are stars, Raymond, Seider, and maybe Edvinsson. So you're seeing them slowly trickle into the lineup. And the third thing that I thought was interesting is the way that Yzerman talked about coaching. Obviously, they were never going to fire Derrick Lalonde. I think people that want him gone, I mean, it's kind of a gut decision. I mean, I understand if you think that there are things that need to change. I agree. I think Yzerman kind of put him on blast a little bit today, subtly, saying that he has all the faith and confidence that, okay, or the expectation even, that Lalonde and the coaching staff and the players are going to fix some of the problems that they had defensively with their breakouts and all of that stuff, because nothing really changed throughout the season. There were times where the team played really, really well and things looked crisp. The passes were good, the breakouts looked nice, but when they were sputtering, everything was all over the place, and it felt like there wasn't a lot of tactical awareness on the coaching staff, and it looked like it bled into the players as well. One thing you can be certain of is Steve Yzerman is going to do everything in his power to try to make this team better and improve on what they already are. One of the things that he did talk about a few times was when Larkin was out, not having that center depth or even having a winger that could step in and provide the goals that Dylan Larkin does. I think that's something that they're really going to look for in the offseason, whether it be free agency, whether it be a trade. I think there's going to be a few moves that we're not expecting at all, because the way that he talked about it, it sounded like a major need for him. Other than that defensive game, it was scoring and having somebody that could shoulder the load when Larkin was out, or even when Larkin's playing, have another threat on that second line. I think we can also expect Jonathan Berggren on the team for sure next year, and even Albert Johansson, and those are the 2 names that he singled out because they're not waiver exempt next year. They have to go through waivers. So I think those 2 players, Berggren will be in that lineup. He'll be in the top 9, or should be in the top 9, and Johansson, we'll see. I mean, they obviously have to earn the spot with no options going forward in terms of waivers. Yzerman thinks both those guys would get claimed. I agree. Johansson is doing really well in Grand Rapids right now. He's one of those kind of not as known as Simon Edvinsson, but it's some of those second and third round picks that Yzerman has made that are now starting to kind of percolate and hey, maybe they are kind of ready to go. So those are the 2 guys that he singled out as probably going to be on the team next year, which means they're going to have to open up a few spots. They have a lot of players under contract. They have some unrestricted guys. They're going to need 2 spots for these players, which means, is there going to be a trade, get rid of a guy, or not re-sign somebody? It's going to be really interesting to see. And one thing that did slightly calm me down is, I think you guys know that I'm a big Patrick Kane fan. Got the jersey hanging right there. But he was asked about Patrick Kane and what he brought to the team, and Yzerman was more than glowing about what Patrick Kane did for this team on the ice, in the room, and just what type of person he was. He made a joke about, I didn't really know what this Showtime thing was, but he's a very humble guy and, was good for the team. This is something where I think some fans don't understand, the negotiation part of manager, agent, player. Patrick Kane, what he said in his interview, his exit interview, was non-committal, talking a lot about these guys and they, not using we or our team, making people think, oh, he's gone, he's leaving. He's got some, he's leveraging stuff here. I think he's been around the block. He knows what he's doing. He's not just going to tip his hand. He knows he's going to get a raise, but it's also something where he wants term. He wants to stay in the same place for 2 or 3 years. That's something that Steve Yzerman talked about today, where he did talk to most of his unrestricted guys and said that they would like to bring most of them back. Gostisbehere being one of them, Perron being one of them. Be as it may, I'm not sure if they will bring them back. I think it's something where Yzerman just can't say, no, we're not. He has to say, we have an interest, let's talk about it. So, and that's a game as well. Now he's putting it kind of on the player, hey, yeah, we'll take you back. So if they don't take the contract, that's kind of on them. So it is a game. there is some intricacies to it, but he did say that he would be open to having Patrick Kane back. Obviously, I think we all would as well. We will go into depth about Patrick Kane in a future video. We're going to break down exactly how he could fit on this team. I think a lot of people aren't understanding that this team could come up with a lot of cap space to bring him back, to also, bring in some free agents or make a trade. And that is also something we're going to do with our interactive GM, armchair GM. We're going to do one that's a little bit more realistic, and then we're going to go NHL 24 crazy, and we'll kind of figure it out from there. So that's what Derrick Lalonde and Steve Yzerman talked about today. Do you think there was anything really like shocking in their information? Were you kind of satisfied with what they were talking about? Are you still on board with the way the Wings are going? Because I still am. It's going to be interesting to see what they do in the offseason. So let me know in the comments what you thought about Derrick Lalonde and Steve Yzerman's press conference. Any of the players, if they had anything to say in the press conferences that you thought are worth talking about, let me know in the comment section. If you enjoyed today's video, please leave a like and comment. I will see you in the next one.